everybody. This is Ashley from TikTok's 130 Books in 130 Days. You're listening to the If It Was a Book podcast, the show that takes real life stories and rewrites them into what would happen if it was a book. For people who love reading, writing, pop culture, and general ADHD chaos. Today I am joined by Dr. Ravynn Stringfield. She is a writer, a scholar, a doctor, and an artist. That's, oh my God, what do you have a doctorate in? That's amazing.
So I have my PhD in American Studies from William & Mary, and it's one of those really fun interdisciplinary fields where you can do a little bit of everything, but I kind of primarily focused on like new media and also kind of literature as an offshoot, like the two things together. Did a lot of work on comics, did a lot of work on like web series. So anything Black girls, digital, fantasy, narrative, very fun for me.
And then your debut novel, Love Requires Chocolate, came out last year, and your sophomore novel, Love in 280 Characters or Less, came out in April. And also serves as a nonfiction editor for Midnight and Indigo, a magazine and publishing company dedicated to amplifying the voices of Black women. Ravynn, do you ever sleep? Have you ever slept?
You know, I'm doing a lot more of that now because I really was girl bossing very close to the sun in my 20s, and it's definitely taking a toll on my body. So I'm sleeping a lot more now.
Good. Love that for you. Do you have any other qualifications you'd like to add for why you think you're the perfect person to rewrite a real story into a book?
I am really good at entertaining my friends and have been my entire life, so I can guarantee whatever's going to happen is going to be fun.
Okay, great. So we are going to be using a Reddit story today, and I have that right here. So this is from user PoZayStrep. It was 11 years ago on Reddit. It says, in math class when I was 12 years old, our teacher noticed his watch had stopped. It messed up the timing of our class since he didn't realize how close to the end of the hour he was. The next day, he didn't come to school, and we had a replacement lesson. When he came back a few days later, it turns out that his dad had died unexpectedly exactly at the time that the watch had stopped. And I think that that has a lot of really interesting ways we can go. I had thought originally to go like sad, and we still can. But then my second thought was that, have you seen those like soulmate AU situations where they're like, you get the tattoo that's gonna match your soulmate's tattoo or whatever? So we could do something like that where the clock like stops at the time you're going to meet that person that day, and so you just like, oh my God, today's the day, the clock has frozen, who am I gonna see? And then it's like someone that you don't like or something. Or we could go more fantasy realm where like this person is predicting other people's deaths and cannot keep a watch to save their life, apparently. There's like a lot of ways. What are you thinking? What would you like to do?
I'm also thinking about it being sort of like a Groundhog Day situation where teacher gets stuck in the same loop and he's like trying to like get to his dad before the clock runs out to get like a last lesson, things like that, maybe try to change the story a little bit. And I think it reminds me a little bit of that came to me because I was thinking about Justin A. Reynolds' Opposite of Always, which came out like probably like 5 or 6 years ago. But I'm always thinking about that one. But I'm happy to do whatever you're thinking.
No, I like that. I think that I always pop into romance and I probably need to stop. So I like that we're going for a less romance one. I like that. How are we going to save his father and or get a last lesson? I will say I just did a multiverse episode with Maddie Martinez, whose book debut novel is coming out in September. Very exciting. And that one, heartbreaking. But also we had discussed doing one where it's a Groundhog Day situation, but where you can never save them, that like it's their time kind of thing, which, ouch, but makes for good media. Or we can save him. What would you like to do?
I feel like we don't save him, but I feel like it's a situation where the son is like, both of them have kind of just made peace with the fact that like, okay, this is the last day. So every day, like the dad comes with like a new story or something like that. And it's kind of like one of those, like the son has to like be okay. Like one of those days something has to happen where the son has to be like, okay, I can let you go now. Like maybe there's something happening where maybe the dad and the son are estranged. You know what I mean? And like they have to like get back to a good place before the dad can move on. And that's why they're in a Groundhog Day situation.
I like that a lot. Okay. So we've got to start with the watch stopping. So I'm picturing like a very grabbing your attention sentence right at the beginning. Something about like The watch stopping signaled like the end of life as I knew it or something. Something that was very like hook line to get the reader's attention. So the watch has stopped. I'm going to say that the first chapter is going to go through that person's day, get to the end, and finding out from like Facebook or something that his father's passed because they are estranged. They don't, or like the lawyer calls or something happens where you find out at the end of the chapter that it's too late. The father has passed. So then we've got to wake up the next morning. I'm going to say that the watch just never works through the whole thing, that we like have that time constant. How do you want chapter 2 to go? Do you want him to like hop on a plane, try to find his dad right away? Or do you want him to like not realize what's going on at first?
I think it has to be like a not realizing what's going on. Like there's a disorientation of like, you know, those classic montage situations where the news report is like the same from the day before. Like he gets splattered when he's walking down the street the same way that he did the day before. And so you're trying to kind of like orient yourself and like what has happened first, right? And I actually think it might take a couple of times, like maybe 1 or 2 times before he realizes that like the day stops at the same time every day, because I feel like that's also a reset. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the day resets at that time and you have to like make a different set of choices. So I feel like it's disorienting for at least the first part of the chapter. I don't know if like it would fit to do just like one disorienting day in chapter 2 and then the next day be like a different set of choices for the next chapter.
I think yes. I think that each time it's going to reset at that phone call from the lawyer or from the hospital or from whoever is calling him to let him know that his father has passed. So like they say what has happened. I'm gonna say that he doesn't even respond. That's just like it's reset. Just because then we don't have to think of like different responses for each time where you're like, wait, what? That already happened or whatever. Okay, so we have our first couple of chapters where it's disorienting. So now maybe he starts to realize that it's always resetting at the phone call, and so he's like, okay, so that we have to like get there before this phone call.
Yeah.
Or maybe he tries not to answer the phone call. And it like, once it goes to voicemail, I'm going to say the voicemail says the same thing. And so then it still resets. Although I don't know if you're like out to tell people died over the voicemail if you're like the hospital. But I don't know that it needs to be that realistic. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the rules of hospitals. Okay. Let's see. I think I'm going to say it's the hospital calling because he's still listed as the emergency contact, even though they are estranged because, of course, they still love each other. There's just this reason that they're no longer talking. Why do you want that to be? Why do they not speak anymore?
You know, how about it be something like not toxic? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if the mom passed and the dad handled it very poorly and like was kind of like in a depression, was lashing out sort of things. And like the son knew that, understood, but still couldn't take it. And like his own grief, you know, like that sort of situation. And so like it was more of a like, we're not no contact. It's more of like, I need space because I love you type of situation. What do you think about that?
I like that. Especially I think that it's often the case of like, I love you so much. You look exactly like your parent who has passed, and that hurts. So I think that that's good. I think one of them should have been with the mom when she passed. Like maybe in either it's like a car accident situation or more of a situation where like she was sick for a long time and didn't want to go to the hospital and they finally go to the hospital. And so then there's like kind of survivor's guilt, but also some resentment there for both parties of like, so if say it's the dad who was with her in her final moments, then it's like, I should have taken her in sooner. And my son must really resent me for not having taken her in sooner. Or on the flip side, if he was like driving somewhere with his mom and they're in a car accident and he's like, oh, I should have driven safer. Like, even if it wasn't his fault that there was an accident, like things happen. Just that like blaming of oneself, but also worried how the other person is perceiving that.
So I'm thinking, at first I was thinking about letting it be the dad taking the mom to the hospital, but I actually think it adds a level of like something even more if it's the son was driving, because it's like, I know it wasn't your fault and I can't actually hate you because you're my son, but I still do. Like, I still can't change the way that I'm reacting to this situation. And as a result, the son that feels hurt, it's like, I lost my mom too, like, all this kind of stuff. So I think that makes more sense for what's up for.
Okay, I like that. And I think that that's a good, like, final chapter of, like, them resolving that and being like, I don't actually blame you. I just really struggle with what happened and like that you were involved. I know it's not your fault. I need you to know it's not your fault. But I was still mourning that and unable to process that at the time.
And I know we're jumping around, but I do think that could be a really good way of, like, once the dad and the son realize that they're in this time loop, because I imagine the son just continuing to go back to the dad every day and then having these conversations. I feel like one day the son has to be like, this isn't the day that I wish I could replay over and over again. The day that I wish I could replay over and over again is the day we lost mom.
Yeah, absolutely. Ouch. I love pain. Okay. So, no, I think that's great. I think that that's very emotional and I think it works well. Just hurts a little bit, but on purpose. Okay. So I like that a lot. Okay. So we're back at the beginning. We've realized we're in this time loop. We're going to see dad, see if we can stop whatever causes this. I don't know what it would be. I feel like it could be something like a heart attack, or it could be something. I feel like it both has to be something that we can't actually solve, but something we can try to solve. So I don't think it could be like it can't be like someone came into the house and hurt him or something. It couldn't be, I don't even know what. I was thinking like it couldn't be a car accident, because then I'm like, yes, it can. We can just move him out of the way and then there's not a car accident. It can't be something external. It has to be like something internal where we try to solve it but can't. So
I honestly think like I for whatever reason, like, aneurysms take up a lot of space in my mind, because there's like literally no warning.
Yeah.
It's like the most, like, to me, like, that is one of the scariest health things to me. And so it's like there is no warning. There is no, nothing to really look out for. So like maybe it's that.
I think that's a great idea. And yes, there's like nothing you can do.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I like that. I mean, I don't like that, but I like that as this. So yes, so he passes away from a brain aneurysm. We know that from the hospital, who has called and been like, I'm so sorry, your father passed away from this brain aneurysm. There was nothing anyone could have done. It was peaceful, hopefully. I don't know how brain aneurysms work. But I think it's pretty immediate, though. I think it's like you have a headache and then you are no more, which is great for us girlies who get headaches. Nothing to be stressed about there.
I don't even want to talk about it, because we just talked about my migraine situations.
I think that is a good option. How far away? I think it can't be too far, because we have to be able to get there and have like a day together to have these conversations. So
like in the Northeast somewhere, like an hour away, like, one of them is like in Providence or something, and the other one's in like Boston, or, like something kind of like tight, but it feels like two very separate things.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I also like that there's an option for a train between those two.
Yeah, because then you get the reflection. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. So we're hopping on a commuter train to see dad. We get there, and I think that he is going to try to save him the first few times. Instead of talking about it, instead of solving anything, dad, get in the car. We're going to, I guess we have to drive if we're getting in the car. We're going to the hospital and they're going to look at you. But of course, it's too late. Like, there's nothing to be done at this point.
And they look at him like he's crazy, because he's trying to say, like, my dad is going to have a brain aneurysm and he looks perfectly fine and healthy. So it's like, it's also like the medical providers are looking at him like, he's fine.
And if like finally they get someone to listen to them, it's been so long that like, say they get the scan, but there's nothing to be done at that point. So I think he'll try that a couple of times. I think, because of course the instinct is to save this person. And it doesn't work. Sorry, team. So now we're going to get into, he's telling his dad, and he's like, I've tried like 4 times. We've gone to the hospital and they haven't been able to do anything. And I think his dad's going to kind of accept that and be like, okay, so how would you like to spend our last day together? And I think it's going to be like high tension the first few times, because of course there's still this, not antagonistic towards each other, but like this tension between them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think they should do some like silly things the first few times.
Mm-hmm.
Like things that you're like, sure, let's go watch a movie. We're gonna go
Mm-hmm.
eat dinner. We'll have a really nice dinner or whatever. And things that are not solving the problem, that are just like,
Right.
we're in the same room, we're not talking in the way that we need
Mm-hmm.
to be.
Mm-hmm. And I think, after the first couple of like arbitrary like the dinners, they might try something that dad likes. So maybe they go like golfing or something, and
Hmm.
then like that doesn't work. And so they try something the son likes. And let's say the son, I love art people. So maybe he like wants to go to a art gallery or something for, some up and coming artists or whatever. And like when that's not really working, like I think at some point, I don't know what the shift is going to be or like what triggers the shift. But I think like the son realizes that he needs to like open up a little bit more about what is going on in his life because his dad's missed so much. So I imagine one of the days where it resets, he has to like convince his romantic partner who he's been with for, like a year or something to come with him to meet his dad. And his partner is like, you don't talk to your dad. I have to go to work.
Yeah.
What's going
Yeah, no, I like that. I think that's good. I also I think that in most time loop situations we don't see every time, so I think it's fair to be like 8 or 10 times of doing
Mhm.
these arbitrary things. We have realized that this is like not I've not even realized because I don't think that our characters know what would stop this time loop or even
Right.
if we need to stop the time loop because of course the idea is that you save them and that simply did not work. So I think that they'll go through so many iterations of surface level nothing
Mhm.
love you too bye situation until they get like deeper and deeper because they've already talked about nothing for so long
Mhm.
that now we have to have these deeper conversations. And I like the
Mhm.
well, we're going to do something that I like, we're going to do something that you like. And I think that there'll be little snippets in there where you like start to see little things that you didn't know about the dad, that the dad like
Mhm.
shares these things about his past, and then that our main character shares these things, like maybe says something about his partner and is like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, my partner, we've been dating for like a year. And then dad is like, I didn't even know you were seeing someone. Like, I would love to meet
Mhm.
them. And then that's going to be the
Mhm.
next episode, chapter,
Mhm.
where they are doing that. But I think each time they the characters will start to realize that like they don't know enough about the other person and that they've been
Mhm.
separated for so long and it doesn't like make sense to be separated anymore, or that
Mhm.
that issue is still over them because of course their mother did still die, but
Mhm.
it's not as fresh anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
What do you think?
I think that sounds good. I'm just trying to think about like, 'cause I feel like the kind of pivot or like the thing that happens, I feel like probably the partner getting involved and like that dinner being like, that being where a lot of the questions start bubbling up that, they don't even know that they're running into these walls, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, how would you know? I imagine the son probably doesn't even really talk about their dad, and so like partner is just like
Hmm.
bumping into absolutely everything, and every like literally everyone's uncomfortable. And so I think that is like the impetus for like maybe we should just try and like talk
Hmm.
to each other. And I imagine like the heartfelt conversation over the course of the day is like really hard, but I feel like that's probably that's the best one. That's the day that we see all of,
Hmm.
and it's there's not a lot going on. Like I'm imagining like, son makes eggs, makes coffee, they have sandwiches for lunch, they talk, they sit in silence, they talk some more, dad is like, I'll make a steak, like
Hmm.
something, like just like a very basic day, except for the fact that they're talking. But I still don't think that's the last day. I think the last day of the time loop, they go to visit mom's grave together.
Okay. I like the stakes and I want to bump off of the stakes.
Mhm.
I like everything, but then I was thinking of how to like make them have these deeper
Mhm.
conversations. And I think that for the stakes, he's gonna be like, you know what? I haven't made this in a really long time. I'm gonna make the stakes. Or the son is like, Dad, you used to always make these things. Will you make that for this time that I have told you is your last day? Not to stress
Mhm.
you out or anything, Dad. And
Mhm.
I think one of them should say, oh, yeah, maybe the dad will say, yeah, I haven't made them since mom passed. Or
Mhm.
the son to say, that was always mom's favorite meal and whatever. Like they talk about the mom just a little bit.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that's going to be what triggers for the son that, oh, this is what we need to talk about. Not to end the time loop, because of course they don't know anything will end the time loop, but like this is something that we need to do, is to discuss this. And then of course the time always runs out, because no matter what, his dad does die of a brain aneurysm every day. So then he wakes up and is like, okay, we need to talk about mom. And maybe that's when he goes and is like, Dad, here's my spiel. This is your last day. I've tried all these things. They didn't work. Would you go with me to mom's grave? And I think they spend the whole day there. Maybe they even bring a picnic. They like bring things for her. They stop at the store. These are her favorite flowers. This was her favorite food. We're going to toast with her favorite wine. Like, or like, even if it's not her favorite, this is the wine that we had at our wedding. Like maybe he has the bottle that you save for an anniversary, and unfortunately she passed before they reached that anniversary, and so they're like, this is the last day. You can't save it for anything else. And so they bring it and they talk, and I think that would be the day that I don't blame you, but I do kind of blame you, and I understand that it's not your fault, and I hope that you know it's not your fault, but she died and I am not done grieving that yet. But I love you so much, and I am sorry that this has put a rift between us, kind of thing.
Not to make it even weirder, but like the ghost of the mom should be at the picnic.
Ooh, love. Okay, yes.
I'm sorry, she's got to be there. I mean, at the very least, to be like, okay, y'all have fixed this, and now he's got to come with me.
Yes.
Like, yeah, and I feel like probably the stipulations were that she couldn't intervene in the conversation. She couldn't intervene in any type of way until they were okay. And then she was like, okay, well, he has to come with me now. And that's, I think, the point at which Sun is like, okay, you know.
Do you want mom to be a like physical presence, or more of a like, so I'm wondering if, because I always love to do a random chapter in someone else's point of view. I don't like a bunch of chapters in different points of view, but like one is fine. So I was thinking like for the cemetery scene, to do it in mom's point of view as the spirit watching. And then after they've had this conversation, the clock strikes the time. Because of course, probably this cemetery is near a church, because that tends to happen. And the bells be tolling at certain hours. And so we have the conversation, the bells toll, and then she like goes and hugs both of the boys, and one of them walks away with her and one stays.
All of the images are imaging. I love the bells in the background. I love the church in the background. I love kind of like the image of like, I could even imagine like them going into the cemetery where it's actually the three of them walking together. Like I could imagine like seeing the backs of them, and like you see all three of them walking together. I mean, obviously they don't know that. And it would actually be funny. Like, I know we've already kind of like done the beginning of it, but it would be funny if there were like touches of her throughout. I don't know, like maybe there's something about like if we go back to the steak dinner or something, like dad always made it for the mom but like always burned the steaks or something, or like or like something about like I feel like there's a way that like it has to be like funny, like maybe he doesn't burn them, but maybe the mom always complained about like how well he does his steaks, or maybe she's like, you always like this way too raw, and so this is the one time he burns the steaks. You know what I'm saying? Like it has to be something like that, or like, some of her things just kind of like fall off the bookshelf, or like little ways of like her being present. And I think like maybe the son doesn't realize until like way later that like some of these things are kind of happening on purpose. So now we've turned this into a ghost story. Now it's a Groundhog Day ghost story. Love that for us.
I like that a lot. I think that's great. I also like the idea that she's sort of there with them for like other things that they're doing for that day, that like she's kind of watching over them at different times. I don't know how I would do it, but I would want to pull that in to like most of the chapters, where like even in the first chapter when he's at school, like something happens that's like related to them that we don't know until later on. I don't know what it would be. I don't have to think of it.
What if like in the beginning he's like kind of missing his mom and he's listening to
Mhm.
old voicemails, and one of the voicemails that she tells him is that like you need to clear out your voicemail because it's always full and you never know when someone needs to call you in an emergency. Like but she's just kind of like, I need to call you. You need to like I need
Mhm.
to be able to leave, she's just mad about that. She's not actually thinking about like needing the phone to be empty in an emergency, but like he's listening to that voicemail, and so he clears his phone out that morning, and
Mhm.
that's the only reason he gets the voicemail or like stuff like that, like
Yeah. No, I like that. I think that's good.
I just I just feel like an amazing like last image is whatever the time has been throughout that end point. I feel like the last kind of like line has to just be the next minute. So like
Right.
if it's 4 o'clock, the last line is like 4:01 p.m.
Mhm.
That's the it.
100%. I agree 100%. Absolutely.
That
Oh, that's so good.
was
Okay.
fun.
Do you
It's nice to know I'm not just good for romances. I'm also good for like really traumatizing, like painful narratives too.
You're good for a nice emotional trauma.
Anyway,
No, I like it. I think it's great. Do you feel like it's got a nice wrapped up ending? Is there anything else you want to add, or should we move on to talking about books?
let's move on to talking about books. That was super fun though. Let's talk about some books.
Okay, great. So you had your debut novel come out last year, and
Mhm.
then you have another novel coming out this year. Is that like normal to do that so fast?
So that was just kind of like a fluke sort of situation. And there are two different types of projects, they're not related at all. I originally wrote the book that came out this year first.
Oh,
So
okay.
I wrote that first. I just had a really long submission process. It didn't work out in the timeline. And so I was desperate to, really get my foot in the door with the publishing industry. So I took another project, like an intellectual property project. And so that timeline just moved faster. So I got in with that one quicker. So that's the only reason, that happened like that. It really wasn't, it was a fluke. It is all I'll say.
Well, you did have two novels come out
Mhm.
in 2 years. Do you have any advice for people who are working on writing or working on submitting their books that you think is like, hey, I sure do wish I knew that?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really, really important that no one, well, we do say it, but it's hard to hear if you're trying to break in, which is that writing a book is very different from the publishing industry as a business. So there are times where it is really fun to write your little stories and like be, doing the writer aesthetic and all that kind of stuff. And that is fun. That is the part that I like. There is a whole industry. There's a whole business. It is a career. And I think for me, I had a hard time moving my mind from this is a thing that is a hobby for me to I have to move like this is my business, like this is my career, this is like a brand type of situation. Which is not to say that I've moved away from my love of writing. If anything, it makes it so that I protect that more. Like I am more likely to protect my time to write. I'm more likely to protect my ideas. And that also kind of means that like, giving yourself permission to be strategic about how you're moving, because every idea that you have for a book doesn't mean that actually should be the next book that you write and sell. Like, so it's about playing chess, not checkers, to be honest. If you intend on publishing traditionally, which is what I did, it's about playing chess, and playing chess while also kind of playing in a way that protects what you love about the craft and about the art. And so that's very hard to do, to play both in a way that advances you but also keeps what you love close to the vest. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so. Having never written anything,
Okay.
perfect sense. Wonderful. And I have seen a lot that like publishers are asking writers more and more to do their own marketing. Do you think that you need to be like Instagram or TikTok famous to have a successful book, or do you think that you can be successful trad publishing without being your very own marketing team as well?
Well, it really depends on what you define as success and what you want success to be for you. I know that I have, especially with my second book, Love in 280 Characters or Less, I had a very specific demographic of people that I wrote that book for. The dedication is to all my chronically online Black girls, and that was who I was writing for. And the chronically online Black girls have found that book, and they love that book, and and they tell their friends. And so, I feel like I did what I wanted to do, at least so far, with that project. If your intention is to write and sell a book so that you can hit the New York Times bestseller list, unless your publisher is kind of upfront with you about like where they're positioning you in the field, you might be disappointed in like what they're actually able to do for you with your book. So I mean, again, like if you're aiming for the stars, like you do have to kind of put in that additional work. It is in your benefit if you have that big following on social media, because they do look at those kind of numbers. But if that's not really what your intention is, or like what you're aiming for with your books, I think the conversation becomes a little different. I think the question that you then ask is a little bit different, because then it's like, it's rather, do you have to do all of this on your own to be a success story, and more about like, what do you do to reach readers who you think might be interested in a story like yours? Like, where do you find them? How do you network? How do you get the book into people's hands? And for me, that has been just, building on connections and relationships that I already had. And a lot of just, foot traffic, going to bookstores and talking to people, which is not actually, incidentally, something that I'm super excited to do. I am a writer for a reason. I like to be in my house behind a laptop for a reason, but it works.
Great. I love that. And you found your audience. So it sounds like you don't necessarily need to be like a marketing genius to find the people but you have done so many things. You have a PhD. I'm so envious. You are a nonfiction editor for Midnight and Indigo. You have done you had a podcast for like many years.
Yeah.
You've done so many things. You have scholarly articles. I have your website pulled up. You have a Lois Lane obsession. I'm rewatching Smallville right now. Actually, I'm watching it for the first time. I only saw the first season originally. I'm on season 2 for the first time ever.
Oh my gosh, we could talk Smallville all day. So I was a big Superman fan for most of my life, but Smallville was the thing that kind of like really like put it in a different category.
I am not that far yet. I'm still in season 2, but I've been getting a lot of edits on my TikTok, and they're like, look how hot Superman is, and I'm like, you're not wrong. And then they're like, look how hot Lois Lane is, and I'm like, wait, you mean Lana isn't supposed to be Lois Lane? I was so confused. I genuinely thought that they were just like, yeah, this is her. We've just changed her name slightly. And I've seen spoilers, and they're like, no, that's like, and I'm like, what?
I love that. You know what? Actually, I love this for you. I'm a little shocked, but like, I love not knowing anything about, like, honestly, like, I wish I could go into Smallville with that energy. Like, I want to do Smallville again with that exact energy.
And like, Lex is like a good guy right now, and I'm like, what?
Just keep watching.
So I'm gonna grab a few book recs from you, and then I will let you go. So the first one is the hardest. What is your favorite book or series of all time?
I actually fundamentally reject doing favorites of any kind. Like, I really do. It is against my principle to pick a favorite. Books are not meant for you. Like, I just don't believe that one book does everything. It's very similar to the thing where people are like, your best friend or your partner cannot be all things to you. And I feel the same way about books. Like, I just don't think that, one book satisfies everything that I need to feel seen, heard, valued, whatever, like everything I need in a person or like in a book. So I'm like, I have a selection of things that I really love. But what I'm going to do for this is just tell you the last book that I really enjoyed rereading.
Okay.
So we'll do it that way, as opposed to like, this is not my all-time favorite, but it was the one that I do enjoy kind of going back to, which is, so it's Black Women Writers at Work, edited by Claudia Tate. It came out originally in 1985, and then it went out of print. and Haymarket Books brought it back into print in 2023. And it's a collection of interviews, like 14 interviews with some of the like most impressive Black women writers of the 20th century. So it's got like Toni Morrison, it's got Audre Lorde, it's got Nikki Giovanni, it's got who else? It's got Ntozake Shange, Alice Walker. You know, it's got everybody in it. Well, not everybody, but it's got a really nice selection. And the thing that I really love about this particular book is that so many of the issues of the time that they felt were very contemporary are still things that we deal with as creative people, as people in the publishing industry today. And what has really helped me, especially in the season of my life where I've moved from a debut author and now I'm sort of like a mid-career person, which is wild to think of because I don't identify as that at all. Like I don't identify as like a mid-career writer. Like, what are you talking about? I'm still a baby. So, you know, it's nice in a season where I am thinking about longevity of this career this pursuit that I've chosen, to be reading about women who have gone through what I've experienced and more.
Wonderful. And then this might be the same answer, but the next question is, what was your last 5-star read? If you rate it, if you don't rate books, what was the last book that you loved so much and can't stop thinking about?
Yeah, I don't really rate books either. Similar Principles is like the favorite thing, but the last thing that I really, really enjoyed reading, and I just finished it, I think, like, I might have finished it yesterday. This Is Why They Hate Us by Erin Aceves. Oh my gosh, it was it was so good. It was like so much romantic chaos energy, but also the main character is very introspective and thoughtful and reflective, and there's so much good language in it, and there's so much like it's funny because like in one paragraph it'll be like this very specific like romantic issue, and then the next paragraph it's like an existential crisis. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like all on the same page, and it's like, but I gotta go, do something like very menial, like I have to go like do the dishes. I can't express to you how much I loved that book. The characters were fantastic. Everyone was so vibrant. Like I feel like maybe this is like I'm not sure what this is, but I don't tend to fan cast when I read books. And that might be because like I'm not getting enough description of characters to really be thinking about who would play them. But I got so much delicious information about these characters that I was thinking about, like, if I could see them in a visual format, what would they be like?
Okay. Who did you choose? Who did you fan cast?
I didn't like settle on anyone, but I was like spinning through my mind. I was like, who would I want for some of these characters? And I still don't totally know.
And then what is your most anticipated book coming out in 2025?
Okay, so my most anticipated actually already came out, but I'll give you this one, and then I'll give you one that I am looking forward to a little bit later. But my most anticipated was hands down Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. Like, I'm Beehive. Yeah, like obviously, like that's what you have to do, okay? And I've already read it. Like I reread Legendborn and Bloodmarked in preparation for Oathbound. Like one thing I'm going to do is talk about Legendborn. Like I absolutely love that. Tracy knows this about me. I probably scared her. I met her at Y'all Fest, and she's just trying to be a normal human, and I can't stop talking about how much I love Legendborn.
No, she seems cool. I think she's fine with it. Everything I've ever seen about her, she seems cool.
Yeah, no, she's a lovely person and a like hugely talented author. And then the thing that I'm actually really looking forward to coming out is Tony at Random, which is about Toni Morrison's time as an editor at Random House. It's by Dana A. Williams, and I believe she's a professor at Howard. And so there was, like, the short story about this is that there was this article that came out in LA Review of Books by Melina Moe, like, last year. And it was about Toni Morrison's rejection letters, like the letters that she sent. This author, Melina Moe, works with curation. So she's seen these letters, right? So she's writing about what she noticed about reading Toni Morrison's like rejection letters and what you can learn from them. And
her letters to reject others, not rejection letters of her. Okay.
Yes. Like, and it was fascinating. I had never thought about, analyzing the rejection letters that she sent as an editor. And, you know, it was thinking about like how carefully she was treating other people's work, right? Like I thought that like I haven't quite gotten that out of my mind. And then after I read that piece, I became an editor at Midnight Indigo. And so that's been on my mind, is like how to editing ethically. So it's been on my mind ever since. And so now I'm after that piece came out, and Dr. Mo has since written another short piece about Toni Morrison's editing for LitHub. But now I'm excited to see this whole book by a different author. Kind of, I'm just interested in this turn to like, now we've exhausted all we can say, I guess, about Toni Morrison as a novelist, and so now we're turning back to thinking about what she did as an editor, because in fact she did really usher in so many of the greatest Black voices of the later part of the 20th century when she was editing. So that's what I'm looking forward to. It's called Toni at Random by Dana A. Williams.
That sounds great. I didn't even know this was coming out, so I'm excited to read it now.
Yeah.
And then what would you say is your comfort book, the one you always come back to?
So it's probably Little Women.
Aww.
And that's probably a very basic answer for me. But, you know, I can't in good faith tell you to go read it, to be honest with you. Like, there's not really, you know, one of my friends one time was like, there's no plot in Little Women. And I was like, no, there isn't. And I don't care. Like, I don't read it for the plot. I read it for the vibes. Like, I am very much a vibes writer. That there's no plot in Anne of Green Gables. There's no plot in like any of the Little House on the Prairie books, really. Like, I'm really there because I like Jo March. I'm there because I like Anne Shirley. I'm there because I like Laura Ingalls Wilder. Like, you know, that's like coming up as a child, those were books that I like really, really enjoyed and reread a whole lot because they were like quintessential character books. They were quintessential like vibe, like you were there for the vibe, you know, and that's honestly, that's very much what I do as a writer. You're not reading my books because you are looking for a very tight and exciting, exhilarating plot. You are coming because you want to read some very flawed Black girls like wade their way through life. That's what you're coming to my books for.
There was a plot in Love Requires Chocolate. I had to know what was going to happen with her roommates. And I knew who the ex-girlfriend was. I knew the whole time. But I needed to know what was going to happen with those roommates. And they were roommates.
Well, that one definitely was much more plotted. Like 280, the other book is really just digital vibes, you know. Like, and I mean there is actually a plot. Let me not say that. There is a plot. There's great plot. But what I'm in it for is I really do love character. I love voice. I love the messiness of people. So that's what I come naturally, or what I come honest by.
No, I think that you do characters well. I also think that you do, like, you set the scene very well. There's a scene in Love Requires Chocolate where they're in his family apartment and they're having this party, and it's just such a vibey time, and his dad is like putting on records and his sister comes out to dance and they're just like having a great time, and I love that part. And it's not like a big important part in the book, but I just genuinely enjoyed it. It's a little important for the tea, but
I love that section, and I actually don't hear folks talk about that section a lot. And I think that section is actually really, really important because it was also a character moment for Thierry, because he doesn't dance. He's told Whitney like a couple of times that he doesn't really like to dance in front of people. And so like when he's like the one that suggests it at his house, she realizes that, oh, like I'm a person that you trust to dance in front of now. Like it's a character. Like I think that Whitney gets all of the really big moments, but there are some really, really important Thierry moments too that you get, and that's one of them. So I do love that scene for that reason.
Yeah, I also just think it's good vibes. So go get the book. It's out now. Okay, so those are all of my questions. That was If It Was a Book. If you liked what you heard, feel free to drop us a rating or a review. Tell us what you liked or what you'd like to see in the future. If you would like to submit a story to have the chance for it to be rewritten by one of our guests, you can do so by emailing your memory to ifitwasabook@gmail.com. You can follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at If It Was a Book. You can follow me, the host, at Wicked Reads on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Ravynn, where can we find you?
You can find me at Ravynn Kamia, RavynnKamia on Instagram. You can also find me less frequently on Blue Sky and on TikTok at Ravynn Ravynn Stringfield. I think a good place for you to follow me if you want more of this type of energy is at my Substack blog. So Ravynn@substack.com. It's called Reign of Ravynn, which might be getting rebranded soon. But those are good places to follow me.
And we have new episodes out every Monday. As always, video episodes are available on YouTube, and audio is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Real quick before we go, did you just pick up your adorable little dog, and can we see it?
Hold on. Yep. Come here, buddy. I picked up his toy, but...
What is your name?
This is Genghis Khan. Yeah. This little guy is Genghis Khan, and he has been my constant companion for... Oh, okay, he doesn't want to actually be on here, but he's been my best friend for 15 and a half years.
He says no cameras, no paparazzi. Hello. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening. Bye.